Eve to me is basically freedom. It's a giant open universe where you can do whatever you
Man, bring y'all asses on here. Y'all left court at fucking. Man, bring y'all asses. This is some bullshit. They left court at what, 12:45? Bring y'all asses on. Shit. We not trying to have no 5 o'clock court. Hell no. Come on. Eric, no. Listen, honey. Court was supposed to start at 9 o'clock. Court didn't really start until I started streaming. This court has been behind all motherfucking day. Like all day. All day. But that's just like Memphis, so that's just Memphis and how we do. We late for every damn thing. We gonna be late for our fucking funerals. Watch. And we did. And we'll be late. Our casket will show up late as hell. Because that's just the Memphis thing. We're always late. For every damn thing. Hey, Emily. Yeah. Yes, I've been here all day. Yeah, I got to thank Pika for that. Because at first I wasn't even going to do this shit. Because I'm like, bro, if I get copy struck. But then I seen other folks saying that they were finna stream it. So I'm like, well, fuck it. If they're going to stream it, I'm going to stream it. So that's how we got here. It really is. Because after the last, not this live I had earlier today, but the last live, Lady K, no, she was here that day. I think it was Saturday or Sunday. And that girl called me immediately after talking about, you got to stream it. No, I ain't got to do shit. Except be black, pay my taxes, and die. I can do it if there's a right way to do it, but I couldn't find... I'm assuming Shelby County Courts is not up with the streaming shit because I couldn't find a link for them. So... Oh, it's in the video. I already have it in the section and everything. The jury is made up of 10 women and 6 men. 4 alternates. And we were talking about the women and them coming out of Chattanooga and if they're white or if they're black. Chattanooga is a completely different demographic than Memphis. Memphis is 54% black. Chattanooga is 18% black with a 76% of white. Big ass demographic difference. Big difference. So we were trying to see if the jury is made up of like old ass old ladies and shit. Yeah, it's that's why we're here. We wanted to see if I wanted to see the jury per se. I wanted to see what they were made up of. Come on, Judge, bring your ass on. Being +2, I'm still at work, so I'm in and out. For the ones that just showed up, y'all gonna see one of the attorneys sweating like a motherfucker. We're wondering if the coat done got to him or what, because he's sweating like a motherfucker in that courthouse. That man got a whole damn towel. I kid y'all not. So we were taking bets on that. Yeah.
I mean, it just makes him sit closer to me, so I would appreciate if he would.
I have no issues with it. Let me.
Y'all come on. This is fucking ridiculous. Now I see why this damn trial gonna take 2 weeks. They slow as molasses. Shit. Nah, don't say pretend, cause bitch, I've been over here working for real. Hell no, don't you try to get me fired talking about I'm pretending work. Nah, I've been over here making phone calls and some more shit while this trial been going on. Pika, remind me to clip that shit at the end of the video earlier. I need to clip that so I can just make that a video by itself. Because people really don't believe us when we say motherfuckers been getting beat in this city. Remind me to clip that. Stop playing with the camera, ABC. Up there his punk ass go. All right, I'm finna drop down.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into our somewhat of a sauna here. We apologize, but our air conditioning seems to be malfunctioning right now. We want to also make sure you all understand, sometimes it can be a little difficult after lunch, after we've eaten, to sit in here, especially when it's warm. So if you need a break, if you need water or anything of that sort, please let us know so that you can all be attentive as we go through this process. We left off with the defense opening statements. Mr. Stengel, are you ready to proceed, sir?
I am, Your Honor. Thank you. Good afternoon. Mike Stengel, and along with Mr. Steve Leffler, it's our privilege to represent Demetrius Haley. Choices, ladies and gentlemen. If you want a theme for this trial, I'd suggest to you it's choices. Demetrius Haley chose to become a Memphis police officer. He entered the MPD Training Academy in August 2020 at the height of COVID, graduating in January of 2021. From there, like all graduates, he rode in a two-man car with what they call a field training officer, a senior officer who helps new graduates bridge the gap between the classroom and enforcing the law on the streets of Memphis. He successfully completed that field training program, became a patrolman, and in October of 2022, he was assigned to the Scorpion team. Scorpion Team 1. Scorpion was different, ladies and gentlemen. As Mr. Hagerman said, they didn't have a precinct to patrol. They dressed differently. The Scorpion unit was a street crime abatement team created by the police department's command staff. And it was their job to go, they were assigned not a precinct, not a regular area to patrol, but based upon crime data that the command staff reviewed, they would send each Scorpion team, there were 3 different teams, to a particular area for a few weeks at a time. The highest crime, most dangerous areas of Memphis. And they were to saturate the area. Now they looked different and they dressed different. They had different cars. They were undercover cars. You've seen some of the video. Those 2 Dodge Chargers were Scorpion team cars. They were undercover. Unlike regular Memphis patrol cars, there was no in-car video on these undercover cars. They also had interior blue lights, not on top like patrol cars. They dressed differently. They were in all black. They wore sweatshirts, hoodies, black pants. They had tactical vests, police written on them, all in reflective. But they also wore masks, what I call watch caps. They had different radios. They had their own radio channel that was encrypted. Only the Scorpion team members could hear the radio traffic, unless, of course, they switched to the precinct channel or switched over to reach the dispatcher. And their job, designed by the command staff, was to go and saturate these high crime areas and make traffic stops. The law is very clear, and these officers were trained at the academy that the United States Supreme Court has said, as long as you see a traffic violation, it is okay to make a traffic stop, even if you have an ulterior motive. And the command staff gave the Scorpion team members an ulterior motive. They needed a traffic stop. They needed a traffic violation to make a valid stop, but they weren't making the stop to write a ticket. They were looking for people with warrants. They were looking for guns. They were looking for gun switches, and they were looking for drugs. They were there to suppress crime. They'll also learn, as all policemen are trained and know, there are two types of traffic stops. An unknown stop, which might be me being blue lighted and pulled over driving home from court today, or a high-risk stop. High-risk stop may be stopping somebody who you know has just carjacked and shot somebody and is driving the carjacked car. There is no such thing as a low-level traffic stop because policing is dangerous. You never know what you're going to encounter. If I'm an unknown traffic stop getting pulled over, I may have a gun waiting for the officer to approach. So it's either unknown or high risk. January 7th, 2023. About 8:20 p.m. at an intersection near, I'm Riverdale, near Quince Road. You'll learn these streets over the next week to 2 weeks. Just north of I-385, Emmitt Martin, a member of Scorpion Team 1, gets on the radio and says he's got a speeding blue Nissan Sentra that's just blown a light. He's going to pull it over. Demetrius Haley, on duty with him on Scorpion Team 1, is right in the area and acknowledges he'll assist with the traffic stop. Another Scorpion Team member, whose name you've heard, Preston Hemphill, is also right there. He acknowledges he'll assist with the traffic stop. Driving down Riverdale, which has a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, Martin turns on his blue lights, turns on his siren, and the blue Nissan Sentra chooses not to pull over. When choosing not to pull over, he chooses to commit at least 2 more traffic violations you'll hear of. He's still speeding, and at least twice he switches lanes without turning his signal, putting another car in between him and Martin. Martin, Haley, and Hemphill are following the blue Nissan Sentra down Riverdale in excess of 45 miles an hour. The blue Nissan Sentra turns right on East Rains, and East Rains is also 45-mile-an-hour zone. There's a little crest in the hill before they get to Ross. The proof will show that Preston Hemphill got up to 64 miles an hour in this 45-mile-an-hour zone and was falling behind. He lost the other cars as they crested that hill. But he crests the hill, and right there at the intersection of Ross and Rains, the light is red. The blue Nissan Sentra is in the left turn lane. Demetrius Haley's car is on the left side, the driver's side, parked. Emmitt Martin's car is angled at the front passenger side. Hemphill, and you'll see his body worn camera. You'll see virtually the entire stop because you see Demetrius Haley leave his car. You see Emmitt Martin leave his car. And of course, the camera shows Hemphill leaving his car. The driver's choice not to stop, and you'll hear that it was obvious that the driver was avoiding pulling over when blue lighted with the siren. Martin announced on the radio that in police talk, the driver was getting little on him, disappearing, running, fleeing by car. That in and of itself, according to the officer's training and procedures, changes what would have been a routine unknown traffic stop to elevate the risk somewhat. Makes sense. People pull over for lights and sirens. When the Nissan Sentra stopped right by the cars that he had been driving away from, that again increased all of the officers' awareness and concern because it was unusual behavior. Very unusual. Consistent with his training, Demetrius Haley got out of his car and used, as he was trained, what they call verbal judo. He loudly and profanely, you'll hear it, ordered the driver out of the car. The driver chose not to get out of the car. Haley approached, opened the door, and he's continuing to give commands. Commands are being given. The driver, Haley, approaches the door, opens it, and the driver leans away from him. Haley moves up the Memphis Police Department's use of force continuum that you started learning a little bit about last week. And he uses soft hands. He reaches in to get the driver out. The driver pulls away from him. Haley reaches back in, pulls him out, and it was Demetrius Haley. Demetrius Haley on the driver's side, getting the driver out. I think Mr. Hagerman misspoke when he said it was Haley, or it was Martin who pulled him out of the car. But it'll become clear as you look at all of the video and listen to the testimony. Haley got him out of the driver's seat using the soft hands technique and put him in the A-frame of the car, between the body of the car and the open driver's door, to get his hands behind his back, handcuff and detain him for this increased risk traffic stop. The driver chose not to comply and not to allow his hands to be cuffed, and indeed spun around on Haley in the A-frame with Emmitt Martin and Preston Hemphill there. At that moment, once the driver has chosen that, Emmitt Martin announces, "Let go my gun." Now the danger and risk has dramatically increased. All officers are trained to keep track of your gun. Never let a suspect get your gun. With that announcement, the driver is taken to the ground where he still is not compliant. He still chooses to blade himself rather than follow the commands to lay flat. He is still resisting having his arms put behind his back. And Demetrius Haley uses his pepper spray. They're down on the ground, unable to control the driver at this point. And in an attempt to pepper spray the driver, Haley gets himself. At that moment, the driver chooses to continue not to comply. He gets up and he gets away from all three officers. As he is running, you'll see he's initially running towards an open car door on a vehicle that's running. Officer Preston Hemphill shoots his taser and frankly misses. It does not connect. The driver is off running southbound on Ross. Haley and Hemphill chase him. The chase is very short, a couple hundred yards at most, before Hemphill falls behind. The driver's frankly faster than Hemphill. Haley is overcome by the pepper spray. You'll learn and see, the proof will show how debilitating pepper spray is. Hemphill tells dispatch, we've got one running. Let everybody know to be on the lookout. Gives a general description of the guy and says he's been pepper sprayed and tased. Haley is virtually blind from the pepper spray. As he and Hemphill are getting back to the cars half a block or so away, Haley is stopped and needs Hemphill's help to cross the street. He's virtually blind. For the next 7.5 minutes, Haley, with Hemphill's help, is at Ross and Rains with the police cars, literally trying to pry his eyes open, to have water dumped on him to try and flush out the pepper spray. Proof will also show that there's no real remedy for pepper spray. It's trying to flush your eyes with water, it's getting air at it, and time. 7.5 minutes, Hemphill is repeatedly dumping water on Haley's face and eyes as he's trying to recover. During those 7.5 minutes, they're still hearing the police radio and dispatch. And Haley learns that other Scorpion officers, a two-man car first, driven by Mills with Bean in the passenger seat, see the suspect at Ross and Castlegate, and he's taken off on them, and they are running after him on foot. So Haley learns through the radio that the suspect has run again, a third flight. And also, while he is still trying to recover at Ross and Rains, it comes over the radio from Justin Smith that they've caught the suspect. They need more cars because he's fighting. After 7.5 minutes, there's been enough recovery, enough water, hearing his fellow officers need help. Haley puts his tactical vest back on, gets in the car, and heads to Bear Creek and Castlegate. Arriving there, the times will mean more over the next several days, but he arrives there at 8:36 and 15 seconds. When he arrives, he knows this is the suspect. He knows he's fled 3 times. He knows he's gotten away from Haley, Hemphill, and Martin. He knows he's fled from Mills and Bean. He knows that Justin Smith has called for more cars because he's fighting. As he arrives, the driver and a couple of officers are down towards the ground. The driver has a handcuff on his left wrist, nothing on his right wrist. He is not detained, and the police training is that single cuffed wrist is a weapon, a potential weapon, very dangerous. Haley runs up and chooses to follow his training using now the hard hand technique, a single leg strike or kick to his upper arm, a muscle pressure point clothed area of the body, in an attempt to get that arm released so that the other officers on the ground with him can get him handcuffed and detained. It works, and within seconds, the driver is handcuffed and detained. Seconds after that, consistent with his training, Haley gets on the radio and tells dispatch, we need an ambulance. The suspect has been pepper sprayed, tased, and everything, is his exact phrasing. You're going to hear medical proof. You'll hear from the medical examiner and at least one forensic pathologist. The proof's going to be virtually identical. Cause of death goes back to blunt force trauma to the head, which led to a stroke or strokes, which led to cardiac arrest, and over the next 3 days, organ failure and death of the driver at St. Francis Hospital. All of the force and all of the trauma is on video, and you're going to see it. You have to piece a little bit together because some parts are on different officers' body-worn cameras and some on the Skycop cameras. But they all have a timestamp on them, and the body-worn cameras all have a camera number that I call an axon number. It's an axon camera system, AXON, and then a lengthy number. So you'll know whose body-worn camera you're watching at the time you're watching. At Ross and Rains, Demetrius Haley used soft hands in this high-risk traffic stop to get him out of the car, used pepper spray, and helped to take him to the ground after Martin announced, "Let go, my go." The driver took off and ran. Hemphill used or attempted to use his taser there at Ross and Rains. At Castlegate and Bear Creek, you'll see that the driver was tackled. I believe it was Officer Bean that was the first one to reach him and tackle him. Bean and Smith were the first two there. Mills was the third one there. Mills used pepper spray 3 times and the asp baton on the same right arm. Martin, you've seen once, kicked him twice in the head and punched him 5 times in the head and face. All before Demetrius Haley arrived. Proof and common sense show that you can't intervene in something you weren't there for and didn't know about. Demetrius Haley had a duty to render aid, and he did. Once the suspect was detained, he virtually immediately called for an ambulance. While this is going on, back at Ross and Rains, Hemphill is still with the cars And of course, he has notified the dispatch that medical response is needed because of the use of pepper spray and a taser. Again, that's Memphis Police Department protocol procedure. Immediately after Demetrius Haley left Ross and Raines, I say immediately, virtually immediately, within a minute or so, the fire department arrived at Ross and Raines in response to dispatch's request because of Hemp Hill's call. It was engine 55 and there were 2 EMTs, emergency medical technicians, riding on it. Robert Long and Jamichael Sandridge. They got out with their bags and they approached Hemp Hill there at Ross and Raines. And while they were there, they learned that they were called out not to treat an officer who had been pepper sprayed, but to treat the suspect who had been pepper sprayed, been tased, had been fighting with the officers, and had fled and was at a different location several blocks away. They also learned that the suspect would not be brought back to Ross and Raines for treatment, but they were to go down Ross to Castlegate. They did. Once they got to Ross and Castlegate, and you'll learn Bear Creek is a small cove cul-de-sac a block up from Ross, a block up Castlegate from Ross. There were so many police cars at that intersection and along Castlegate that the fire engine couldn't get up there. So Long and Sandridge got off. They took their blue trauma bag, walked up. They were directed to the suspect, who was handcuffed and seated up against one of those 2 undercover cars you saw. And they also overheard officers saying at the scene of Castlegate and Bear Creek that they believed that the suspect was on something. While those EMTs were there, they, along with law enforcement, got the suspect's wallet out and learned that his name was Mr. Tyre Nichols. He was nothing to Demetrius Haley or any other Memphis police officer other than the driver of that blue Nissan Sentra until that point. When Long and Sandridge arrived and were directed to Mr. Nichols, he was alert, he was oriented, he was answering questions. His speech was slightly slurred. He told them he was 29 years old. He admitted that he had been drinking some alcohol. He sort of ignored the question about drug use. He neither admitted nor denied drug use. He just really didn't respond. He didn't complain of pain. He didn't say anything about what had happened. He repeatedly said, "I want to be uncuffed," and stood up. Those EMTs spent the next 14 minutes standing and observing Mr. Nichols. They also, can't remember if I said, they checked and his pupils were pinpoint, which to them was indicative of the suspected drug use. Because of that, EMT Long called for an ambulance. He and Sandridge stood and observed Mr. Tyre Nichols for roughly 14 minutes. And you'll see that. No vital signs taken, although their paperwork said they were. After that 14-minute mark, an officer off camera, but you hear the voice. Now, believe that it's Justin Smith, but you'll make your own determination. But an officer says something, "Hey, are you okay?" directed at Mr. Nichols. EMT Long is there, and he notices a change in Mr. Nichols' condition. He performs a sternal rub, which is basically a knuckle in the breastbone, to see how responsive he is. And Mr. Nichols responds to that. At that same time, the ambulance, Unit 28, arrives. It is staffed by another EMT, Jalen Jones, and a paramedic by the name of Jesse Guy. The paramedic has more education and is able to provide a higher level of care and perform procedures and administer drugs that an EMT can. Mr. Guy takes over the care, immediately gives him Narcan, intranasal Narcan, in an attempt to counteract what may be an overdose. By this time, Mr. Nichols has gone from alert and oriented to responsive to pain to unresponsive. The paramedic starts an IV, more Narcan is given, he is loaded onto a stretcher, put in the ambulance, and the ambulance is off to St. Francis Hospital. Virtually when back doors of the ambulance are closed and EMT Long from engine 55 ends up driving the ambulance in the back with Mr. Nichols and treating him, paramedic Jesse Guy, other two EMTs, Jermichael Sandridge and Jalen Jones, who had arrived in the ambulance. He is treated, he goes into cardiac arrest, and gets CPR, various drugs, and is transported to St. Francis Hospital, where the care is transferred to the emergency room. Ladies and gentlemen, the facts here are tragic and a tragedy. Demetrius Haley was present for portions of this. But a tragedy does not mean a homicide occurred. And Demetrius Haley's presence during portions of this tragedy does not mean he engaged in criminal conduct. The proof is going to show that Demetrius Haley chose to engage in policing, which can get ugly and dangerous and dirty. And he followed his training that night. The state has brought murder, kidnapping, assault, oppression, and misconduct charges against Demetrius Haley. I'm not going to spend time on the elements, but I want to talk very, very briefly about the state's burden. We all know it's beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the highest burden in our legal system. It's not an insurmountable burden, but it is the highest burden. It is such a high burden that it is higher than the burden the state would have to meet if this was a case where it was trying to take custody of a child from his or her parent. That's how high beyond a reasonable doubt is. Demetrius, the state will not be able to prove the elements of this murder, kidnapping, assault, oppression, or misconduct charges beyond a reasonable doubt against Demetrius Haley. He thanks you for the time you've already given and for your paying attention to the proof. Listen to the proof. Learn these intersections in Memphis. Look at the times on the videos. Look at who did what and who was where, and hold the state to this high burden of beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you for your time and attention.
Yes, sir. I happen to know we have a second grade teacher in amongst us. So when the kids come back from lunch and you stick them in a hot classroom, what happens? There you go. So Judge, with Your Honor's permission, could they stand up just stretch a moment? Because
I mean, if anyone needs to stand up, or if you need a drink or need a rest, then you all are welcome to let us know. We will take that rest. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and proceed.
I just don't want you falling asleep during the term. All right, I've done this 32 years. And in 32 years of trial practice, I've never read my opening statement ever. But this is probably going to be my last jury trial, and so I want to make sure I don't miss any points. So I'm going to stay pretty close to my notes. I figured it's good enough for a preacher, it's good enough for me, okay? I have the pleasure of representing Mr. Justin Smith. Justin, could you stand? This trial started with an indictment. And as it's been explained to you, the indictment is giving notice to defendants what the charges are against them. And you've heard what those charges are, ranging all the way from second-degree murder, all the way down to official oppression, kidnapping, aggravated assault. All right? What you may or may not know, and it may or may not make a difference to you, is the indictment for murder actually was filed and then publicized within days of Tyre Nichols' death. The indictment came before the autopsy was ever gotten back on Tyre Nichols. The indictment occurred before the toxicology reports on Tyre Nichols ever came back. Then we went through that. As criminal defendants, you didn't go through the process of the indictment, turning yourself in, et cetera, and then we just go on the process of discovery. So there's a lot of things that we know in our files that you don't know yet, because the state has to give us what's called discovery. Okay, and so from that discovery is what we piece together our defense, and it's what the district attorney uses to prosecute. Now, Mr. Hagerman said a very common theme that we heard in Memphis a lot for the last over 2 years: justice for Tyre. Justice for Tyre. Tyre died, which, by the way, is a tragedy. It's tragic whenever anything that God created dies before its time. It's tragedy. Everyone was screaming and yelling justice for Tyre. And these indictments came down targeting 5 police officers. And about the only thing they had in common were they were on the Scorpion team and that they were at Bear Creek and Castlegate that night. You've heard from the lawyers about someone named Emmitt Martin. Emmitt Martin's not here. The reason Emmitt Martin's not here is he's already pled guilty to killing Tyre Nichols. He's not here. Desmond Mills has also pled guilty to causing the death of Tyre Nichols. He's going with the baton. I'm going to baton the fuck out of you. Give me your hands. Give me your hands. That's that guy. He's already pled guilty to causing the death of Tyre Nichols. What you may or may not know is they're awaiting sentencing. Their sentencing, some of it's going to depend not only on the crime that they pled guilty to, but it's also going to depend on their testimony here and how favorable or how cooperative they are with the state. Don't think for 1 minute, if somebody's looking at life in prison, they won't come in here and point the finger and say whatever they can say so they can get favorable recommendations from the government to reduce their sentence. Okay, those two guys aren't here. The guy who punched Tyre Nichols, I think 5 times. And you're also going to hear from the pathologist that says that there are 5 distinct tears in the brain, coincidental, that killed Tyre. What happened is that his brain started shutting down from the injury. It then affects your central nervous system, and his went into heart failure. Okay. During that period of time while they're waiting on the ambulance, only one cop is monitoring Tyre's respiration rate. And you'll hear him, Mr. Sting was right, you'll hear him on tape saying to these EMTs, who I'd be willing to bet, we're all going to walk away from this saying those EMTs were the most incompetent people in the whole world. Because Justin Smith said either 3 or 4 times, hey, do you have the baggy thing to put on him? It's a rebreather to give someone oxygen. A cop is telling EMTs, do you have the baggy thing to put on him? You'll see and you'll hear Justin Smith saying, his O2 is getting low. Where's your green bag? You'll hear that phrase, green bag. The green bag is the bag that has the oxygen canister in it that EMT Long was supposed to have brought with him. By the way, before I forget, there's some confusion about EMTs and ambulances, okay? In Memphis, what happens is they will dispatch a fire truck first, and on that fire truck are EMTs. So that's who first arrives, okay? Then if the medical care is higher or needed higher, that's when dispatch will then send an ambulance. And you'll hear proof that ambulances are in very short supply in Memphis. So what they'll do is, in order to span that gap, they send the fire truck first. Now, I think Mr. Stingle misspoke. Hemphill is not who called for medical. It was Justin Smith, and you'll hear it at 13 minutes and 15 seconds on the dispatch tape. You'll hear that tape. The whole interaction starts at 9 minutes. That's when they're over there fighting at Ross and Rains Road and doing all that, okay? And the call goes out saying, hey, we have a black male suspect running southbound Ross Road who's been tased and sprayed. Every cop who's going to come in here and testify will say, when you hear that, that means there's been a fight. If someone's been tased and sprayed and he's running, there's been a fight. And so when an officer calls for assistance because of a fight, you come. That's what Mr. Perry mentioned about how they actually let a suspect go so they could respond to help, okay? But listen on the dispatch tape. At 13 minutes and 15 seconds, it's Justin Smith who comes up on the radio, who's not even there. He's responding to the call for assistance. He tells a dispatcher how to do her job, apparently. Hey, go ahead and roll MFD now if chemical agent has been used, because they know they're going to decontaminate it. Okay. That was Justin who called before they ever even caught Tyre Nichols. So at the end of this, don't tell me that Justin Smith was not concerned about the medical care of an unknown suspect who had not been searched, who had been fighting with the police, who had been tased and sprayed, that Justin Smith was responding to. Now, Justin Smith, if anything, is a horrible navigator. So he rolls up to Rains and Ross Road where Hemphill is standing, and this is what Mr. Perry was talking about. You'll see on the body cam, you'll see Justin pull up, stop for like 2 seconds. He looks at Hemphill and says, which way do you go? Hemphill, you'll see him, he's a very young, very chubby, chubbier than me, white guy. He points and says, that way. Off Justin goes. So Justin goes into the neighborhood because his experience tells him if you don't catch somebody pretty soon and set up a perimeter, you're not going to get them. And if he's been sprayed and if he's been tased, by the way, this after the fact business about the taser didn't work, nobody knew that then. Okay? You'll see Tyre Nichols running away from the taser, taking his coat off. I don't even think Tyre Nichols didn't know that he had been tased. But if you don't get medical to check someone out, you could find them later in a bush dead. for an asthma attack, shock, whatever, heart attack, whatever. So Justin calls dispatch. Can we set a perimeter up so we can get this guy? Okay. And as Justin's sitting at a stop sign, trying to figure out where he's going, he looks up and he sees Tyre Nichols running and Tadarrius Bean chasing after him down a dark street. We people who are not cops, that don't work the 6 p.m. shift, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift, in the second most dangerous city in the United States, don't understand what it is to run down a dark street after a suspect who has now run from the cops 3 times and he's unsearched. You will hear proof that Justice Smith, in a short 4-year, 5-year period on OCU, that's organized crime, which is the umbrella to Scorpion, made over 1,000 felony arrests. Think about that. That's almost 1 a day. That's how dangerous Memphis is. We are the 5th most, this is FBI statistics, 5th most dangerous city in the world for murders. And Tadarrius Bean is chasing this man down a dark street and tackles him. Justin's sitting in his car. He sees this happen. So Justin makes the choice. We hear about choices. Justin makes the choice to get out of his car and help Tadarrius get this guy in handcuffs. Okay? Now, I may or may not misquote Justin. If so, please forgive me. The tapes will be my guardrails, okay? But the first thing Justin and Tadarrius say is, bro, give me your hands. Give me your fucking hands. Man, just give me your hands. And they want to take issue with the fact that they had his hands, okay? But I want to tell you something, and every cop that's going to testify will tell you that as old as I am, if a cop grabs my hands and I don't release my arms, it'll take 3 cops or more to keep those arms behind my back. So as they're screaming, give me your hands, and they've got their hands on him, that's like, give me your hands so I can put them behind your back and handcuff them. Okay, that's what that means. They don't have to say, sir, could you please relax the deltoid muscle on your arm so I can take your arm and put it behind your back and safely handcuff you? No, give me your hands. Tyre must have known what it meant because he wasn't giving those hands. Okay? Justin was able to get 1 handcuff on the left wrist of Tyre Nichols. You'll see this in the video, okay? So imagine that handcuff. By the way, these are the actual handcuffs that were used to arrest Tyre Nichols. Now imagine this on my left wrist. This has not been clasped onto the right hand yet. Those serrated teeth right there, I flipped that 1 time, that's it. The Memphis Police Department trains their officers that if a suspect gets the cuffed hand away, you can use lethal force on them, shoot them. Now that's what they train. Now, while this is going on, Mills, and as Mr. Hagerman correctly stated, it's kind of a theme of this case, Mills came up and sprayed everybody in the group. He sprayed Nichols, he sprayed Bean, he sprayed Smith with very powerful, what's called OC spray. It's pepper spray. Much more powerful than what you buy at Dick's or Academy Sports, okay? And you'll see training videos on that. 1 shot, 1 squirt in the eye will shut you down. You're not going to see, you're not going to breathe. And remember, you're on a dark street with 1 handcuff. Justin wears glasses, as you can see. His glasses were knocked off in the fight. He's got pepper spray. He's breathed it in. And people want to take issue with what Tadarrius and Justin were doing. Guess what Emmitt Martin did, the one who pled guilty to killing him? Guess what Desmond Mills did, the one who pled guilty to killing him? When he sprayed it. Those 2 walked off and took a 1.5-minute break to get their breath back. And you'll see all this on video. You got Mills over there breathing, snotting, spitting. You got Martin, who's like this big. Whoo, whoo. Can't breathe. Not Tadarrius and Justin. They still got their hands on him, on Nichols, trying to get him. And you'll see him bent over at 90 degrees. By the way, the white tennis shoes are Justin. Justin had blown his knee out the night before on another chase where he caught somebody. He wasn't even supposed to be at work. You'll hear from his wife. His wife told him not to go to work. He's been over. He also has they call it, someone's been calling it tactical vest, but it's a bulletproof vest, okay? Justin's bulletproof vest has 2 reflective strips along the rib cage. So it's real easy to keep an eye on Justin during this whole altercation. Tadarrius, about the same, a little bit bigger than Justin. He has a black hoodie on, so he looks like a cone head as he's wrestling with Tyre Nichols. These cops arrest violent felons every night. And every cop who will come in here and testify will tell you that Tyre Nichols was the most difficult arrest they've ever made. He had superhuman strength. And I'll bet you right now you're asking the same question that everybody in the world was asking. Why did Tyre Nichols run from that first traffic stop with Emmitt Martin, Demetrius Haley, and Emmitt? Why did he run? It's traffic stop. Traffic stops happen all the time. Why did he spin on Haley in the A-frame of the car? By the way, if he's got a weapon on him, that's it. Why did he spin on Haley? When Haley and them, these big men, put him on the ground and he got up and ran away, why did he run away from that car? Why did he abandon his car? He's looking at a reckless driving charge. Whoop-de-doo in Memphis. You get a gold star in Memphis for that. Why did he run? Then you're going to see him just down the street on another Skycop camera. Not the one that Bear Creek Casket, but another one. And you will see Tyre Nichols, the TBI agent, will come in here and testify that that's Tyre. Tyre's hiding behind a Toyota 4Runner. And he's peeking out from around the front of that Toyota as the Scorpion car comes through looking for him. When that Scorpion car goes by, Tyre comes out the other side of the woods, make sure it's gone on down there. He turns around and starts walking this way. Sure enough, 2 minutes later, Mills, who's not here, and Tadarrius find Nichols walking nonchalantly through the front yard. Somebody else's house. Tadarrius says, "Hey!" Boom, off he goes. And that's that chase we're talking about. Down a dark street. Tadarrius caught him. Okay? Now, do you remember much was made about the definitions of second-degree murder? Unlawful, knowing, or intentional. And remember this phrase, reasonably certain. So, not reasonably expected, reasonably certain. When you hear about Justin Smith, and when you hear about Tadarrius Bean doing what they did that night, there's no way those men should be responsible for Emmitt Martin. You will also hear proof that Emmitt Martin was deranged. Emmitt Martin was deranged. In fact, to some people, he had admitted being homicidal. He got his Lieutenant Smith, put him out on the streets anyway. Cops have to rely upon other cops, just like that surgical team that Keith Berry talked about. You've got to rely upon the other cops on your team to do the right thing at the right time. Okay? No one could have expected, much less be reasonably certain, that Emmitt Martin would come and crush the brain of Tyre Nichols. And before you take my word on it about what kind of person Justin Smith is, you will hear proof that Justin Smith never allowed another cop to ever abuse a suspect. You say, well, that's great, Mike. Everybody would say that. You will hear direct proof that not 1 month before this, Justin Smith turned in a Scorpion Team cop for slapping a handcuffed suspect. Just slapping. What Emmitt Martin did was a heck of a lot more than slapping somebody. Justin Smith was proud to be a police officer. You will hear proof. That's all he ever wanted to be. He wanted to be a cop since he was 10 years old when his mama was being abused and a Millington cop came to her assistance. He didn't have two nickels rubbed together. He went to college and he only applied for one job out of college. That was with NPD. You will hear Justin Smith's former bosses. I'm talking about brass. People are really in charge. They're not worried about what NPD thinks about them coming in here and testifying. They're going to come in and say he was kind and compassionate cop who protected suspects and he protected other officers. You will hear Preston Hemphill describe Justin Smith as kind and gentle. Yet he's standing here, having lost his career, lost his reputation, standing charged with second-degree murder. So if you hear a little bit of frustration in my voice about that, that's what it is. So we're going to watch a bunch of videos. We're going to hear a bunch of audio. We're going to hear a bunch of foul language. And at the end, I think good things will happen for Justin. Because no matter what the politicians wanted done to Justin, see, indicting cops, that's a big thing nowadays. No matter what the politicians wanted done to all these cops, it's your word. You will be the final word whether or not Justin Smith broke the law. And I'm confident in you. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we go with witnesses, does anybody need a break? All right, with that being said, State, are you ready with your first witness?
Yes, Your Honor. State calls Rovon Wells.
Come on, Wells.
While this witness is coming in, I know there wasn't made on the record, but with regard to when we had a bench conference with regard to the rule, are there any other witnesses that or potential witnesses in the courtroom that the defense had requested at the rule? I just wanted to
May I speak to Mr. Hagerman real quick? I may be able to take care of it. Yes, we are going to call for the rule. However, I believe I'm going to permit one exception to that.
We ready?
Your Honor, we may need just a 2-minute recess.
Ma'am, you can just have a seat right there on that, there's room on that front row.
Your Honor, I'll shorten that to a
Ma'am, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give today will be the truth and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
All right, please have a seat and please watch your step. All right, you can proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Ms. Wells.
Good afternoon.
Will you introduce yourself to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please?
Hello, my name is Robon Wells. I'm the mother of Tyre Nichols.
Ms. Wells, will you spell your first and last name for the court reporter and for the jury, please?
My first name is ROW. V is in Victor. AUGHN is in Nancy. Last name Wells. WELLS.
Thank you, Ms. Wells. You mentioned you were the mother of Tyre Nichols.
Yes.
Tell the jury, are you married?
Yes.
Who is your husband?
Rodney Wells.
And how long have you and Mr. Rodney been married?
It'll be 13 years in November.
You mentioned Tyre was your son. Do you have other children?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury about your other children, their names?
Kiana Dixon is my oldest daughter. Michael Contreras is my oldest son. Lindsay Dupree is my middle son, and Tyree is my baby.
Ms. Wells, are you a native Memphian?
No,
Can you tell the jury when you moved to Memphis?
I moved to Memphis in 2008, March of 2008.
And I want to draw your attention back to the time of January 2023. At that time, where were you living in Memphis?
It's 6743 Castlegate Lane.
And who lived with you at 6743 Castlegate?
My husband and my son Tyree.
Where were you employed back at that time in January 2023?
First Horizon Bank.
Was Mr. Rodney Wells employed at that time?
Yes.
And where did he work?
At FedEx.
Was Tyre Nichols employed at that time?
Yes.
Where did he work?
At FedEx.
Did your husband and son work together at FedEx?
Yes.
I want to draw your attention specifically to the date of January 7th, 2023, a Saturday. Tell the jury what you remember about how that day started and specifically your interactions with Tyre that morning.
Well, when I woke up that morning, Tyree wasn't at home. He came in about 11:30 that morning. There was a co-worker that was teaching Ty how to drive the forklift. So Tyree would go in on Saturdays and they would, he would teach him how to do the forklift. Tyree, like I said, he came in about 11:30. We spoke briefly. He went and laid down. He got up about 2 o'clock or something like that. He took a shower, messed around the house. And about 3:30, he was on his way out the door.
And as he was on his way out, did you have a conversation with him before he left?
Yes, I was actually in the kitchen. I had just was taking out some food for dinner that night. He asked me what I was cooking. And he said, Mama, are you getting ready? Are you cooking some chicken? And I said, yes. And he said, well, how are you going to make it? And I said, well, I think I'm going to do sesame chicken today. And he just kind of rubbed his stomach. Okay. So about 3:30, he was.
Culture evolves at the speed of light, just like your financial.
To enjoy my sesame chicken.
Tell the jury what's the next thing you heard about Tyre that day.
Well, about 8:30. I say about 8:30-ish, 8:45, somewhere up in there. We got a knock at the door. My husband and I, we were getting ready to watch a basketball game. I was complaining about my stomach hurting earlier. So he decided to come in the room with me and watch the game. And we were just going to lay across the bed and watch the game. We got a knock at the door. Bang, 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 Memphis police. My husband went to the door. I heard a gentleman say, does Tyre Nichols live here? My husband, he paused a second, and then I came to the door, and I said, yes, Tyre lives here. I'm his mother. What's going on? They proceeded to tell me the police officer that was at the door, it was actually 2 police officers at the door. One proceeded to tell me that Tyre was arrested. And I asked them why he was arrested. And they said for DUI. And DUI, that didn't sound right to me.
And tell the jury, why doesn't that make sense to you?
Because my son, he doesn't drink like that to have a DUI. We're not drinkers in our families. So Ty would barely drink a beer, or something. So it just didn't seem right to me. They proceeded to ask me, was he on drugs? Did he do any type of drugs? And I said, no, we don't do any type of drugs. Smoke a little marijuana. And I said, why? They said because he had all this wild strength and all this strength and everything. And they had to end up pepper spraying him and tasing him. And that still didn't sound right to me. And I made a statement. Well, if all of that happened, then somebody must have put something in his drink or something if they were saying all of this stuff happened. So the officer told me that they're going to be taking my son to the hospital. I asked him where my son was, and the officer said he was nearby. And I said, nearby? And they said they were going to take him to the hospital because he had been tased and pepper sprayed. I said, well, okay, what hospital is he going to? I need to go. The officer told me that I could not go because Ty was arrested. He proceeded to get some more information from us and everything, and then they left.
After those officers left, what did you do next?
After the officers left, I started kind of pacing the floor a little bit. I got my phone and I started trying to call my son. He didn't answer. I told my husband, come on, let's go. Let's go find Ty. He took a little too long and I had jumped in the truck, my SUV, and there was another police officer just sitting out there. So my husband came. We were going to take the route that we thought, Ty would come home. And because they were saying that they were taking him to the hospital, we just kind of assumed that it would be St. Francis because that's where normally they take, people. So as we got into our vehicle and we drove to Rains and Castlegate, we made a right on Rains. No, we made a right on Ross. I'm sorry. We made a right on Ross. We got down to Rains and Ross. And that's when we noticed Ty's car.
Now, that intersection at Ross and Rains where you see Ty's car, how far is that from your house, Ms. Wells?
Probably a half a mile.
When you saw Ty's car there, what did you do?
We immediately pulled over and I got out the car and I started speaking to the officer that was there. The officer asked me again. It was a different officer. He asked me again, was my son on any type of drugs or anything? Because he just had all this strength and all this Hulk Hogan strength and everything. And they had to do all these things to him in order for them to arrest him. And
Wix gives you the power of AI to build the website you need with full business functionality.
And did that officer you were speaking with at Ross and Rains answer that question for you?
I don't recall. He just said my son was pulled over for DUI and he ran from the police. I think that's what he said. I can't remember if he
Did
said.
you come into contact with any other officers at that scene or just one?
There was another officer there. They were gathering up the tape. He spoke to me, the officer did, and he handed me his card. After that, we left and went back to the house.
At that point, what is your plan? Are you waiting to hear more, or what were you doing during that time?
Well, when I got back home, I called my daughter because I was actually on the phone with my daughter prior to the police coming to the door. And I called to let her know Ty's been arrested. And she said, what? And after I explained to her what was told to me, we were both kind of baffled about it. And I said, well, there's nothing I can do tonight. I don't even know where he is. I'll just figure it out tomorrow and I'll let you guys know what's going on.
What is the next thing you heard about or from Ty?
About 4:00 in the morning, I received a phone call from a doctor from St. Francis Hospital. The doctor asked me if I knew if my son was in the hospital. I said, yes. I heard he got arrested and he was tased and pepper sprayed. The doctor said, no, ma'am, your son is sick. And I said, what do you mean he's sick?
Yeah, I checked to what the doctor said, other than some of the prints behind it. She can't go into what his diagnostics are. What his response?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Oh.
Specifically what he said, did you become extremely concerned about Ty's condition?
Yes, very concerned. Until to the point where I called my cousin and I said, get over here right now. We need to get to the hospital and go see Ty.
And is that what you did?
Yes.
Who went to the hospital with you at that time?
My cousin Tony, she came over to meet us, and my husband and I.
What hospital was Ty at?
At St. Francis Hospital.
And tell the jury what happened when you walked into St. Francis.
As we were walking into St. Francis, there was another officer walking in. We were kind of going in the same direction. So I asked, you're working late tonight, huh? He said, yes. He said, I'm here to sit with a prisoner. And I said, well, is the prisoner's name Tyre Nichols? And he said, yes. And I said, well, that's my son. He said, oh, okay, well, follow me. So we all proceeded to walk to Ty's room.
Ms. Wells, I know this is going to be difficult, but I want you to explain for the jury when you went in Ty's room, what you saw, what Tyre looked like, what you saw, what you felt, what happened in that moment.
When I walked into the room and I saw my son, I immediately went over to him and I fell out on him because my son was beaten to a pulp. His head was the size of a watermelon. His nose was broken. His neck was split open from the swelling. He was bruised from head to toe. It was like they beat the shit out of him. That's what they did. They beat the shit out of my son and left him for dead. That's what they did.
And Ms. Wells, were there other officers in that hospital room when you walked in?
The doctor was there. There were some other officers in there. Once I saw my son and I basically passed out on him, I just laid on him and just started crying. And I just burst out and said, what the fuck is going on here? This does not look like no pepper spray and no tasing. And a police officer took my husband and I out the room. My cousin stayed there and took us into another room. I want to say it was a sergeant or captain, I can't remember. We spoke briefly. And then next thing you know, all of Shelby County police and everybody was out the room. They said TBI had taken over the case. And all the police officers that were there were gone. And so it was just the TBI, the nurses, the doctor, and my husband and my cousin. We were in the room with my son.
When you saw your son, was he ever responsive to you that night?
No. Tyre was not responsive. He was on a breathing machine, and the machine was keeping him alive.
And did you know from the minute you walked in that room that night that your son was gone?
Yes. You couldn't. There's no way my son would have survived from that. He was already deceased, basically. I say they must keep him on those breathing machines for 72 hours. But my son was deceased.
Ms. Wells, several days after that, did you get a call like that from the hospital on January 10th informing you of your son's passing?
Yes, I got a call a little after 2 by the same doctor, Charles. I want to say Charles. I can't remember. I meant to look. I can't remember. He said, Mrs. Wells. I said, yes. He said, this is Dr. from St. Francis Hospital. I said, yes. He said, I just called to tell you that I pronounced your son deceased at 1:41 p.m. And I just lost it. I dropped the phone and I lost it. 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 Because the first thing I had to do is trying to figure out how I'm going to tell his siblings that their little brother is deceased. That was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do as a mother, is to explain to them. I called my daughter. When I explained it to her, I heard her falling down the stairs. She cracked her nose. And the fact that I'm from California, all my kids still live in California. So it was very difficult to not be there to tell them. I called my middle son, my oldest son, Michael. I told him, I don't even think he even heard me. And the reason why I say that is because a couple days later, he called. He said, Mom, what's going on with my little brother? Why haven't you called and told me anything? I said, Mike, Ty is gone. And he just lost it. He was like, what do you mean he's gone? I said, I told you Ty didn't make it. And he lost it. And then I had to call my other kids. My middle son, I had to call him. And then my god kids, and everybody just started. Everybody knew at that time. Yes, that was the most hardest thing that I ever had to do as a mother, as a parent, to tell the siblings that your baby brother is deceased, and really for no reason at all.
Ms. Wells, at the time that Ty passed, how old was he?
Ty was 29. He was a 29-year-old young man still trying to find his way in life. You know, he hadn't found his way yet. He was getting there. He loved to skateboard.
Ms. Wells, I'm going to pass you a picture. Can you tell the jury what you see in that photograph?
My happy Tyre.
And is that what Tyre looked like that day he left your house on the afternoon of January 7th, 2023?
Yes. He didn't have on his suit, but yes.
Your Honor, I would ask this be marked as Exhibit 2.
On that, we'll just go ahead and first enter the stipulation on the record for Exhibit 1, and then we will show the picture of Tyre Nichols as Exhibit 2.
Your Honor, permission to publish.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Wells, looking up at the TV screen here in the courtroom, is that the photograph of Tyre?
Yes.
Is that what he looked like that afternoon when he left your home?
Yes. Yes, that's what he looked like.
And Ms. Wells, after this occurred, you had been told, you mentioned that the officers said that night that Tyre was nearby.
Yes, nearby.
Did you later find out that the events in this case happened at Castlegate and Bear Creek?
It was later on. Actually, my son, they were looking at different videos and things of that nature, and they realized that this had happened in a neighborhood. And as they started putting two and two together, they realized that it happened in the first cul-de-sac of our subdivision.
And tell the jury, if you can, about how far from your front door to where this happened, that cul-de-sac where Cascade and Bear Creek is, how far away is that?
About 80 to 100 feet.
Ms. Wells, I'm going to pass you another photograph. Ms. Wells, do you recognize what's in that photograph?
Yeah, I recognize
And can you tell the jury what you see there?
my son beaten to a pulp
And where was that picture taken?
at St. Francis Hospital. My husband actually took this picture.
And is that what he looked like when you first saw him?
Yes. As we were walking in, and I saw him, and as I was walking over towards him, my husband took this picture.
Your Honor, I ask this be marked as Exhibit 3.
Any objection? We'll show the photo of Mr. Nichols in the hospital as exhibit 3.
Your Honor, permission to publish. As well as looking at the TV in the courtroom, is that photograph you just looked at?
Yes,
And is that what your son looked like when you first saw him that night
yes,
or the early morning hours of
Early
January
morning.
8th?
yes,
At some point after Ty passed, did you all have a memorial service for him?
yes, we did.
And when and where was that, Ms. Wells?
It was approximately, I can't remember the date.
That's okay.
I'm drawing a blank on the funeral home, and I'm drawing a blank right now.
That's okay. Did you have a service here in Memphis?
I did. Ty actually had 2 services.
And if one was here in Memphis, where was the other?
Both of them were in Memphis.
Okay.
Yes.
Just one moment, please.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, we pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Perry.
No cross-exam, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Saint, or Mr. Lefkow.
Thank you, Your Honor. As well as, my name is Steve Lefkow. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to refer to your son, to Mr. Nichols.
Thank
I think he
you.
deserves that respect.
Thank you.
And so if I use Mr. Nichols, I'm talking about your son. Not only are you the mother of Mr. Nichols, you're also the administrator of his estate. Is that correct?
Yes.
And as the administrator,
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yeah, they took a break because the air is not working down there at 201, which doesn't surprise me because 201 is also our jail. They're at the courthouse, but 201 also serves as our jail. So the system's not working, basically. Jenna, I think that's why they took a sidebar, was because they brought up his estate and all of that, and because they're trying to bring up the civil suit, which the judge has already told them, like the Fed trial and the civil suit ain't got shit to do with the criminal case, so leave it where it's at. So I think that's why they took a sidebar, and probably one of the jurors was saying they needed a break because, like I said, they have no AC, and right now it is fucking 90 degrees in Memphis. No lie. It is 90 degrees here. So, yeah. Yeah, because if you rewind it back he brought up the estate, and as soon as she answered and said yes, and because I heard the tone when she said yes, kind of like, what the fuck you asking for? What his estate? Because she thought the same thing as us. Like, why the fuck are you asking about his estate? And and then the assistant DA stepped in and said, sidebar, basically, can I approach the bench? And then they went into break, I'm assuming. Yeah, area. It's 90 degrees here right now, so I can understand them wanting to take breaks because 201 is hot as shit. I've told y'all I've been down there before. It ain't no secret. Of course, mine wasn't like criminal. Mine was traffic, but still. Well, Jenna, they're trying to build a whole new jail because they basically said 201 is a piece of shit. It's falling apart. It's got black mold. The heat and air rarely work. It's a lot of shit wrong with 201. And so they're proposing to build a new jail, and we're all like, okay. And how much is that shit gonna cost us? I just know the opening statements were enlightening. Let me put it like that. The opening statements that these lawyers made and changed the events and sequence of what happened is truly a mind fuck, especially if you watch the videos and all of the footage. You know what happened, and to see it for them to sit there and say some shit like that, it kind of fucks with your brain a little bit because you're like, wait a minute, I know what the fuck y'all are claiming. He stood up on his own. The only gallery is the news. Which we were surprised about that because, like I said, I found out Saturday that they were live streaming this trial. And because at first I wasn't going to stream it from, other news channels because, like I said, I didn't want to get copy struck and all of that shit. And then this morning, I saw somebody else saying they were streaming it. So I went over to their stream to see if they would pull it down, and they didn't. So I said, fuck it, I'm going to stream it. It is what it is. So, but we literally found out Saturday that they were streaming the trial. Usually with high profile state trials like this, they usually do not that's why I was shocked about the judge letting cameras in so they could, stream it because usually with a case like this, even with state trial, they'll tell media, fuck no. Like you can have an artist, sketch artist and stuff in here.
When we got the farmer's dog, we did the first feeding and he got so excited.
Like you can have a sketch artist in here, but as far as like media, recording and shit, usually like a high profile case like this, they usually don't allow it. So I was shocked when the state judge allowed it, basically. 2023, right before my birthday. I'll never forget, January. Right before my birthday. I'll never forget the whole sequence of events that week. I'll never forget how everything played out. I'll never forget how a lot of Memphians felt. I'll never forget how the whole world expected the worst out of us Memphians. I'll never forget how racist it was, and I'll never forget people debating about it being all white cops. And I'm like, nah, white cops don't do that. It's not here anyway. The demographics here is majority of the time, if they're going to violate your rights, it's a black cop. Any white cop I've had an encounter with, A1. Never had an issue. Black cops, that whole week, I'll never forget. I remember, like I said earlier in the chat, I remember seeing that post. I remember where his mama and his stepdad posted that picture. And they had a post saying, MPD beat our son and this is what it is. And folks was like, yeah, whatever. What the fuck did your son do? And I remember the news sitting here. They got the video footage before we got it. And they were like, it's bad, y'all. It's worse than Rodney King. And a lot of us was like, man, y'all are full of shit. You're full of shit. Ain't nothing worse than Rodney King. The fuck? You're full of shit. I'll never forget stores shutting down, starting at 2 o'clock, going to fucking 5 o'clock because the video was being released at 6:30. Every store in Memphis shut down because they expected us to loot, burn, and riot and tear up our city. And I remember when they released the video. See, now I'm getting emotional thinking about the shit. I remember calling my mama and crying for a straight hour. An hour just crying. Because I couldn't believe that black cops would do that to a black man. And, I remember everybody talking. I remember going on rabbits that night. I remember the protest. I remember they shut down the bridge. I remember people marching. I remember a few businesses did get looted. But a lot of the OGs in the city, we wouldn't let that happen because we were like, no, that's what the fuck they want. They want the worst out of us, and we're not going to give it to them. So, I'm not going to pretend like, but it wasn't nothing like Seattle or anything like that. It wasn't, we didn't burn this fucking town down and then turn around to the city and expect them to fix it because we knew if we burn this city down, then what's left? it wasn't worth it. So a lot of us, you had some try to take advantage of the opportunity. And mostly it was the young ones. It was the young guys. I'll be honest. It was the young ones who just took advantage of the opportunity at hand to break into stores and steal. But it wasn't on the scale that we've seen it in other places. Get your fat ass head out the way. Thank you. It was. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. Because I never thought in a million years I would see some shit like that. Just like I didn't think in a million years I would see a fucking mass shooting. But I did. Yeah, Sunday it would have gave them the fuel that, basically, and we knew that. That's why a lot of the OGs went out to the streets and pretty much was like, no, we're not finna do that. We're not finna fucking tear this city down. We're not finna do that. This is our home. And I was proud of Memphis. I was, because we didn't let insiders or outsiders come in and try to destroy any fucking thing. No, get that bullshit out of here, because I remember we discussed this too. There was quite a few folks that was protesting that wasn't even from Memphis. And that's what we were worried about. I'm not going to lie to y'all. A lot of us was worried about that because we knew, regardless whether they were from Memphis or not, if they was with that crowd of protesters and they started looting and burning, we automatically knew black folks would take the blame for that. We knew this. Because I said it when it started popping up. I was like, whatever happens, don't blame us black folks, because we had already said we wasn't looting, we wasn't rioting, we wasn't tearing up shit. We were doing this peaceful. Yeah, we took over. Well, I didn't. They took over the I-40 bridge, which is we call it the new bridge. You got the new bridge, which is 40, and then you got the old bridge, which is 55. They shut down 40. Couldn't nobody get across that Mississippi. Nobody. Except one ambulance, because it was a little girl and she was going to St. Jude. So they let the ambulance go through, but everybody else, they wouldn't let them through. And that's when they came up with the demands, and they had this committee basically to oversee police. But that kind of backfired too, because Nashville basically took that away and said, "Nah, y'all need to go back to it," because it stopped basically pretextual stops. It stopped that. It basically said you couldn't pull somebody over for expired tags or minor shit like that. You couldn't pull nobody over. Nashville came back and said, "Bullshit, y'all better pull them over," and that's because of the crime ratings here. So it stopped for about a year, but after that, Nashville said, y'all got us fucked up, and pretty much threatened to take our funding if we didn't start back doing pretextual stops, which some of it is harassment. Some of it's racial profiling. I know, I've been through it, not with MPD, but Bartlett police. Them motherfuckers racially profiled me for a week. A different officer each night. I cannot make this shit up. So if it's happening in neighboring cities, it'll happen in Memphis. It's just the thing about Memphis is, like I said, you have more blacks than you do whites. So we have more black officers than we do white officers. And a lot of times it's the black officers that are doing the most bogus ass shit and getting away with it. as some of y'all heard earlier, because which I do plan on clipping and just posting that by itself. I called somebody that's very close to me, my godmama, and I let her explain how they beat the shit out of both her sons, Scorpion Unit did specifically. And she explained how she filed a complaint 3 years later, went nowhere, and if anything, it made it worse because they started harassing her and the family worse. Anytime any of us left her driveway, we were getting pulled over. Literally. Everybody that, like, literally anybody that left her house, you had to be on the straight and narrow if you went to her house, because you already knew once you left, your ass was getting pulled over. And it's one cop in particular that has been gunning for her. I would say his name, but I'm not trying to make it worse on her or them. They got a new baby at the house. I'm not trying to do all that. So I have to respect their privacy with that. Damn, what's this recess? A 30-minute recess? What the fuck we doing? Hey, bro, if court goes to 6 o'clock, we gonna have a problem. I know, Fat Mama. Tell me all about it. But for real, Fat Mama, you over there dreaming, though. I don't know what you chasing, but you chasing something real good. Yeah, Ari, that day is always etched in my brain, and that video, well, it ain't just that video, all the videos, the body cam, the sky cam, that shit will be forever etched in my brain. Forever. Watching people be so heartless and having no mercy whatsoever can hold a man down so your fellow officers can kick him in the head. Then when you get done holding him down, you pick him up, stand him up, hold him up by his arms while hollering, "Quit resisting and give me your hands." And other cops beat him. Emmitt, Demetrius, Tadarrius. And Justin's lawyer sitting here trying to say, well, all he did was be there. All he did was hold him down. No. Justin was the motherfucking authority on the scene that night. He was one of the supervisors, and Justin should have stepped the fuck up and told his fellow colleagues, cut it the fuck out before all of us end up in Fed court. But no. Nope. No. You didn't do that, Justin. None of y'all did. Y'all lied on reports. You lied to his mama. You lied to the tenants, and in return, they turned around and lied for y'all. I will say the only one that was honest in this whole motherfucking situation, and I don't even like that bitch because where she came from was CJ. CJ, the chief, was the only honest one to sit here and say, I didn't even see a driving infraction to begin with, so the stop what shouldn't even happened. Out of all the officers and all the fire, the medic and all of them, out of all the people on scene, the only one who was truly transparent was CJ Davis. I do give her credit for that. But I also give her that credit of creating Scorpion Unit. You tried to replicate what you did in Atlanta with the Red Dog, but you should have learned when you, because they ran your sneaky looking ass out of there, out of Atlanta because of Red Dog and what happened with Red Dog. And if people don't know what happened with Red Dog, look it up. They raided a fucking 70-year-old woman's house and damn near killed her. Yeah. Let's not mention all the other shit Red Dog did down there either. She also covered for, because I remember this shit, she also covered for one of her sergeant's husbands who had CP on his phone. She told them, don't investigate. And then miraculously, the charges was dropped out of nowhere. I don't know how that happened, but yeah, that happened too. That's why I don't like CJ, but I do give her credit here. I will say that she was one of the first officers to be transparent. Oh, Jenna, yeah, one of her sergeant's husbands had allegedly, I don't know because I didn't see it, I wasn't there. Allegedly, he had CP on his phone, and for the ones that don't, child corn, there you go. He had CP on his phone, and allegedly she told them not to investigate. Allegedly. But then the charges were dismissed and some more shit. So they ended up covering everybody's ass in the investigation, basically. So that's why it's not really talked about, because a lot of people don't know about it. But no, I do. Fuck out of here. I remember that shit. Because I was screaming that shit on the rooftops. Because Rabbit had me on her channel, and I know I fucked up her monetization, but at that point, I didn't care. The truth is the truth. Look up Red Dog and the motherfucking trauma she caused down there, and why Atlanta let her ass go. And then the folks in Memphis, I'm going to say this again. I know a lot of people don't believe me, but us Memphians did not want her ass as police chief. We didn't. We didn't vote for her. The city council voted for her. And we told the city council we didn't want her. And the city council said, well, fuck how y'all feel. So. But I will give her credit. Like I said, I will give her credit on that. I will give her credit for having transparency for that situation. I think she learned from Red Dog. Your ass better be transparent. And I think she also knew that she couldn't cover for her cops on this one. She knew. There was no covering. You can't cover it. And so she didn't have a choice. Either she could come out and disown them and say that's not our values, that's not what that's not what our policies back, versus I'm gonna stick beside my cops until court comes. And I will say she did a CYA. I will say, I'm not going to pretend like it wasn't an ulterior motive behind that, because we all know she distanced herself from that situation to cover her ass. It was CYA. But she did sit here and say that wasn't their values. That's not what they're taught in the academy, yada, yada. But then you have the experts that come out and say, no, they were taught that in the academy. So I don't know. Yeah, and there was no damage control that you can do, because the post of Tyre, of his mama and stepdaddy, because like I said, they had made the post. That's how come folks knew about Tyre at first. It was going viral. The news hadn't even picked up on it yet. But everybody in Memphis knew that a man was beaten by cops. We just didn't know the facts. We didn't know what happened. So a lot of us was like, bro, he probably deserved that beating. What the fuck he do? Because I'm not going to lie. Sometimes, just like the motherfucker that sat here and took police on a high-speed chase through 4 different counties after he killed his ex-girlfriend in Shelby Farms in broad daylight, where thousands of people were at because they were doing a breast cancer walk. Yeah, police beat the shit out of him. Shit like that, I'm going to turn a blind eye, whatever. I don't care. But in this situation, Tyre never once swung. He never once reached for their gun. I don't know why they keep bringing that bullshit up when it was already debunked in the Fed trial. He did not reach for their gun. That was a lie. You tried to make it seem like he was a drug addict, but he only smoked weed and shrooms. You tried to make it seem like he was just a scammer out here just doing hardcore scams and stealing folks' debits and credit cards and doing all of this shit. But he worked a job at FedEx. And you have to pass a background to work at FedEx, just FYI, because I used to work out there. Because you're on federal property, you have to pass background, not no regular assurance background. No, you have to pass FAA background clearance. So do you think he was a real hardcore criminal? It's the whole situation. The whole situation is fucked up. The Fed trial, we didn't get the convictions we really wanted because I don't give a fuck what nobody say. They absolutely violated his constitutional rights the moment they started on him. And it should be more than fucking 15 years. Fuck that. For these 2 motherfuckers to plead, and I stand by that as well, is bullshit because they were 2 of the main aggressors. They were 2 of the main ones throwing haymakers. But hey, they can plead. And leave the other 3 out to dry, which I really don't give a fuck about them, but it's the principle of it. I was ready. Y'all took Justin as state witness versus them 2, especially Emmitt bitch ass. Emmitt ass needs to be serving life. He's crazy. The man had his bond revoked for stalking his baby mama. Big Daddy, you dreaming? Had his bond. That's why he's in custody. He violated in February. He was texting her and sending her threatening messages. And so the judge was like, at first she didn't even want to revoke his shit. She asked the probation officer, like, why are we revoking his bond rights? And the probation officer had to say, because I'm afraid he'll hurt her. And that's when they revoked his shit. Are we finna come back? If we finna come back, I'm gonna jump back down.
For all those that are in attendance, when
Yep,
jury
all
comes
right.
in, you all don't, in the gallery, do not need to stand up. We'll just have the attorneys and the defendants stand up. But those in the gallery do not need to stand up when the jury enters.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Zuma.
I have no questions of Ms. Wells at this time, subject to my other subpoena that we spoke about.
All right. Ma'am, those are all the questions we have for you at this time. Sit down. You're welcome to stand for a few. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we have come upon that 4:30. Our next witness may be a little lengthy, so rather than keeping you all here much later, we are going to go ahead and break earlier. We will anticipate starting much earlier for you all tomorrow morning. So I'm just going to go ahead and ask you all, get a good night's rest, be ready. As you can see, it can be a little bit warm in here. We are hoping to have them work on the air conditioner this evening, but please dress accordingly just in case we are back in this temperature. But we will go ahead and excuse you all for the night, and we will take care of some other matters.
You're being serious.
All right, hang on, y'all. I'm finna cut this because they're done for today. Okay. So quick recap so we can get this over with and out the way. Jenna, I plan on going live every day and streaming this, so until told I can't. So we will be back streaming tomorrow. Unless just something happens and I can't. I'll still try to figure something out though. Them opening statements were a motherfucker. I will say that I did not expect the defense to change the whole sequence of events, but that's how they and their client sees it. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Oh, you're talking about Ellie. Oh, yeah. Well, I've been staying up to date on hers too because I've been following that one. I know he tried it for dismissal and all type of crazy shit already. The only thing I'm worried about though is he hired Leslie Ballin. And if you know anything about Memphis and the attorney you need to hire, it's Leslie Ballin ass or the Massies, one of the two. Yes, our court is in our main court, which is 201, is yes. Right next to it is the jail. Absolutely, yes. Sunday, yeah, I'll be on tomorrow. I'm be on. This trial is supposed to go for 2 weeks, so I hope y'all ready. Shit, I hope my laptop ready. Today has been giving me hell. Yeah, Jenna, just email me. Because I found out, I know his family's rich. Court is supposed to start, well, it was originally supposed to start at 9. But he said it's going to start early. So I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'll be up anyway, though. And I'll go ahead, like, when I find out the time, I'll schedule it that way. Because that's what I had to do after recess. I couldn't sit on here for an hour and talk. Yeah, the reason why they cut court today, though, is because the next witness testimony, and I don't even know who the next witness is, so I guess we'll see tomorrow. The next witness testimony is going to be long as hell. So maybe the medical examiners or something like that. I'm thinking along those lines, because if it's going to be a long testimony, instead of holding them hostage, and besides, we're in the heat of the day right now, which is, like I said, in Memphis, it's 90 degrees. So imagine that courthouse and how that courthouse feel. So that's why he went ahead and cut them early today. But I'm curious to see who's testifying tomorrow, because, like I said, he said it was going to be a lengthy witness statement. So we shall see. But we already got opening statements out the way from all four, from the DA plus the 3 attorneys. Which, me personally, I think the DA need to bring some fire. He need to bring something, because this monotone, boring ass shit he doing, that ain't gonna get a conviction, sir. I'm just saying. I need you to go drink a Red Bull or something. Go get some wings. I need you to do something, because that shit is not gonna get a conviction. And I ain't saying put on a media circus. I'm just saying I need you to give a fuck, basically. I need you to get the jury to understand and put themselves in Rovon's shoes. That's what I need you to do, Mr. DA. So if you see this tomorrow, I need you to bring your A game, please. I'm rooting for you, and I hope like hell you do get the conviction, because what we saw on that video was murder, plain and simple. But I need you to come a little bit harder than what you did today. And I understand the heat may have wore y'all down in there. I get it. I understand it's hot as hell in Memphis right now. I get that. But I need you to put them in there, something. You got to keep us engaged. You got to keep the audience engaged. If we're sitting here and we're watching it through a live stream and we're all kind of like, yeah, we're not impressed with the DA. Imagine how the jury feels. Because for the ones that was here that came in Sunday, I tell you, Pete will tell you, we all sit here and talking about the DA. We're like, what the fuck is the DA doing? He's got to come with his A game, because these lawyers, these other 3, they came to play. So he needs to snatch the ball and run home. Shit. Be stingy with it. I need him to do something other than this aloof, monotone ass, boring ass statements he be giving. No. Yeah, Sunday. I should have gave y'all a fair warning, and I'm sorry for that. I didn't expect them to show that photo that fast in the trial. So I do apologize for that. So if y'all saw that, I'm sorry. I didn't expect them to show it that fast. But also, please keep in mind, this is a state trial, and evidence will be shown. Medical examiner will testify. Law enforcement will testify. So keep all of this in mind. And like I said earlier, there's somebody that always gets lost in this conversation, and a lot of people don't even realize it. Tyre's child. Tyre has a child that will never get to see their father again. Tyre was a son that his mother and stepfather will never get to see again. He was a brother that his brothers and sisters will never get to see again. He was an uncle that his nieces and nephews will ever get to see again. Ryan. I ain't got time. We ain't got time. I'm not doing it, Ryan. I ain't near Fort Dodge, so I ain't got to worry about it, Ryan. So, no, I'm not saying, I'm just saying a lot of people forget about Tyre's child. Hell, I didn't even know he had a child until like 6 months after, you know? But I just want people to remember it's not just about his mama, his stepmama, and his brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. He also had a child out here. Has a child, excuse me. So, like I said, I'll be up in the morning. We shall see what time they'll start streaming. If they start streaming at 8, I'll be here. Like I said, I'll be up because I got to be up for work anyway. But most likely 9. But I don't know. Like I said, the judge said they were starting earlier, so I don't know. We shall see. Because they said 9 this morning. The shit didn't get started until 9:30. So, but let's just keep this family in your prayers. And I know this is going to be a tough trial. Hell, it's a tough trial for me. It's tough to sit through this and listen to this, especially when I know some of it is lies. It's hard. But without hearing this and without gaining understanding from it, we'll never learn. So that's why I always feel like no matter how hard it is to hear, we need to hear it. You know? Because that's the only way we'll make true change. That's the only way we'll really get to see changes anywhere. So. And me, I get that, but here, and people can deny it or whatever, you know. Memphis is very racially motivated city. It is. It's not divided by class. It's not. It's divided by race. And unfortunately, like I said, everybody that I've talked to, a lot of the black cops here be with the shit. They do. They be with the shit. I mean, the DOJ numbers don't lie. They have proportionally oversentenced black people compared to white people. They overcharged black people compared to white people. A white person could get pulled over and have, let's say, an ounce of weed. They'll confiscate the weed and send you on about your day with a summons. Black person gets pulled over with an ounce of weed, your ass going to jail for manufacturing and distributing. Sad but true. And right now, with them releasing them to task force because of the crime, now true enough, crime is out of control. We had 36 shootings, 15 deaths last week alone. We had a man took police on a high-speed chase on the E-way, got out, started running on the E-way, got hit by another motorist. Some jackass recorded it, put it all over Facebook. Some shit you don't want to see. And I hate people that record. Because if it was your dead-ass grandmama, you would feel some type of way if I posted her dead-ass body on the street. You would feel some type of way. So why the fuck do we do it to other people, regardless of what they did, what crime they committed? Why the fuck do we post shit like that? Anyway, that's a whole nother subject. Dina, lackluster. How the state opened up. Like I said, that some people were here in the chat. They can tell you better than me. We were bored as shit listening to him. We were bored. He talks very monotone. Listening to him will put your ass to sleep. And then the defense got up and they pretty much changed the whole sequence of events, and shit that wasn't allowed in Fed court is apparently allowed in the state trial, because they are definitely running with he grabbed their guns. Because all three of their asses said Tyre grabbed the gun, which was debunked in the Fed trial, not the state, excuse me. It was debunked in the Fed trial that he did not reach for their guns at all. But yeah. So we're now, like I said, I'm attributing that to because 201 does not have AC right now, and everybody in there was sweating like a whorehouse. So, and I think they heard me make jokes about that because apparently the judge felt like he needed to address that first thing at the second part of the hearing. Basically, Emily, yes. If you get pulled over by a black cop, good luck, especially if you're in the wrong on something. Say if you don't have insurance, they taking your shit just to be petty. I've probably met 3 that were cool, 3 that pulled me over and was cool, but they were state troopers. They wasn't MPD. So there's that. State troopers are completely different than our MPD. State troopers, like, you can't bullshit them, but they are understanding. MPD, on the other, they don't give a fuck if you ain't got the money. They don't give a fuck what you going through. They don't give a fuck about none of that. They taking your shit, taking you to jail, putting your vehicle in jail. They petty with it for real. Sunday, I think he did saw that comment where I called that lawyer a crackhead. Cause why the fuck? I was trying to figure out why the fuck he had a whole towel in there wiping his forehead. Like, how much coke did you snort, sir? But the judge said, no. Our AC is out, y'all. Let's not call them cokeheads and crackheads. Although I do know for a fact one of them, I ain't gonna tell y'all which one, but one of them lawyers is on dope. I'm telling y'all what I know. You know how many lawyers I know shop with my old dealers? I used to see that shit. They would pull up and shit, and I'm like, bruh. He was like, bruh, how you think I get my court cases and shit knocked down? I'm like, I mean, that's smart, but at the same time, bro, that's a conflict right there. Real shit, though. I know a few of them that serve the lawyers in this city, man. Real shit. So, Emily, it did not sound bad. It's just what it is. That's a straight shooting response. That's what it is. The black cops in this city think they're fucking white. And they have this fucking like, you know, they have this complex where, like, a boy mentality. You gonna do what I say, boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's real. It's real plantation shit. Let me put it like that. It's real plantation type shit. Like the house ninja versus the cotton picking ninja. It's a divide. It's definitely a divide. Now, I know a few black cops, and they're good men and women. I do. I know a few of them. Not all of them are like that, but majority of them are. But I mean, the best way I can explain it is it's like a plantation type mentality. You know, cops think they're the house person while we're the cotton picking person. And we're supposed to, say how high when they say jump. And it's fucked up. It's a fucked up complex that goes on here. It's fucked up that it's been like this for years. Y'all have heard. Some of y'all were here when I called, that person, which I need to clip so I can show y'all, because if you want to go to that clip where I just called somebody, it's at the end of the first video that I did today with the opening statements. If you go to like the last 20 minutes of it, you'll hear the phone call that I made. And she explained how both her sons were beaten by Scorpion Unit, how Scorpion Unit purposely refractured her son's arm to make him hurt, how she filed a police report, and how she filed, documents to basically get them reprimanded, and it went nowhere. Matter of fact, it made it worse on her and her family and anybody associated with her, because if you leave her house, you're getting pulled over 9 times out of 10. And that was the everyday life here for as long as I can remember. And everybody knew about the Ron tax. I'm going to say this again because they keep trying to make it seem like it was because he got pepper sprayed and he was hit with, which he wasn't pepper sprayed. That's why they fucking got mad, because Preston bitch ass pepper sprayed everybody except Tyre. And then they did deploy the taser, but I don't think the taser actually hit Tyre, because I don't remember them saying anything about pulling the barbs out. But I could be wrong. And it's how they just tried to do that shit today. I mean, defense lawyers, that's their job, to be defense and to create doubt so, the jury can come back with a not guilty verdict. That's their job. I get that. But to change the whole sequence of events and basically tell us that this man stood up on his own, that's the part that really got me. Fat mama. Y'all said this man stood up on his own for 14 minutes. Where in that video did that happen? I saw where y'all stood him up and y'all hit him some more. That's what I did see. He couldn't sit up, so y'all propped him up against the motherfucking tire wheel. I did see that, but I never saw him standing up for 14 minutes having a whole conversation with paramedics, law enforcement, supervisor. I didn't see that. So for that lawyer to sit here and say that stupid ass shit, yeah, that one kind of pissed me off. It did. Basically, you sitting here trying to hint that it was drugs by sitting here saying, oh, we gave him Narcan 4 times. First, you said it was DUI, he was drunk. Then it had to be drugs because he was Superman. He had this superhuman strength, and he lifted 2 officers up at the same fucking time. Then y'all tell his mama a lie. You wouldn't let his mama see him the first night. The second night, they had to go, and that's when the doctor was like, no, your son is fucked up. He's fucked up. You might want to get up here. And that's how they were able to get that picture. The stepdaddy took the picture, he posted it online, and that's when it started going viral all over Memphis. And that's when, like, half of Memphis was divided because, like I said, we were all like, okay, what the fuck did he do? He had to do something for him to get his ass beat. And then when CJ came out and said there was not even a traffic infraction to begin with, so he shouldn't have never been pulled over. What? Your own police chief sat here and said there was not a driving infraction, so there was no reason for him to get pulled over to begin with. So the whole stop and everything that happened after was null and void. But let the lawyer tell it. No. Tyre committed 5 driving infractions. But the police chief said there was none. So who do we believe? The lawyer that's a liar or the police chief that's also a liar? Now, in this case, I believe the police chief because, like I said earlier, that bitch is distancing herself from all of this. She had already got her name withdrew from the civil suit because she was like, that ain't got shit to do with me. I wasn't there. No, but you hired them. You hired the Scorpion unit. You created this Scorpion unit, so you're just as culpable as the next motherfucker. No, you didn't throw punches and you didn't kill them per se, but you created the team that did do it. So I don't know. Like I said, this trial is going to be 2 weeks, so we shall see how this plays out. Today was Monday is usually a light day for me at work anyway, but during the week, the further we get along, the busier I get. So I may not be in chat as much further along in the week we go, but Pika's here, so. And I saw a few of my mods in and out today, like Dutch, Sonal, Vic, Pika. I appreciate the hell out of y'all. I ain't never went this fucking live this long on my own, besides the 11-hour live I did with Nonsense, but not on my own. I ain't never went this damn long. So, but we gonna see what happens, y'all. And I can't wait to see who the next witness is tomorrow, because if it's going to be a long testimony, I'm betting it's going to be the medical examiner, but I could be wrong. I'm game to you whenever. Just let me know. I'm definitely free on the weekends, so. And it looks like from 8 to 5 or 4:30ish, I'll be streaming the case every day, but I'll be game. Emily, exactly. If that sky cam wouldn't, Vic, I shouted you out, babe. I said, Vic. No, if that sky cam wouldn't have been there, and I some of y'all heard in the beginning, they even said it. Those sky cams go to this, it's like a computer room. And they have like 40 monitors up all across that room. And whoever was manning the sky cam that night, they turned that camera to face them beating the shit. It doesn't turn on its own. You have to manually do it. So whoever recorded that and whoever zoomed in on that with the sky cam folks, thank you. Because if it wasn't for you, we would be going by the body cam footage, which wasn't a lot, because if you remember in the beginning, the body cams fell off because they were beating him so hard. So if it wasn't for that sky cam, we wouldn't be here. we wouldn't be seeing a Fed trial, a state trial, and a civil trial. That's why I keep saying shout out to the Skycam person, whoever the fuck it was. We appreciate you. I'm pretty sure you caught hell for doing that, but thank you. Uh-huh. Yep. They picked up the disturbance on the Skycam, and as soon as they seen, and then it was also called over the radio to secure the scene. So they had to secure the area. So whoever was manning that Skycam, soon as they started congregating and started beating on him, you see the Skycam turn. That's why I said, because a lot of folks thought it was just automatic. No. They have a crime center. They call it Connect Memphis. And basically what it is you have all these sky cams, but not only do you have these sky cams, you also have neighbor cams. You also have store cams. All of these cams are hooked up to Connect Memphis, which goes directly to MPD and their cybercrime unit, who monitors it. So, and they hire so many people, IT specialists basically, to monitor those cams. So whoever did that shit that night, I appreciate the fuck out of them. And I'm pretty sure they did catch hell for that shit, for recording their own beating the shit out of somebody else that was their own skin color. So, yep. God damn, what was that? Somebody hit something. That shit was loud as fuck. But I just pray we get the conviction we need. I'm praying for his mama. She has to sit through it. Well, she doesn't have to, but she chooses to sit through this. And all respect to her, all power to her, all prayers to that woman. Because I could only imagine how she feels. I can't put myself in her shoes because I don't have kids. And I don't know what it's like. And I'll never know what it's like because I'll never have kids. But to sit in that courtroom and look at the men who killed your son takes a whole new word of patience, whole new level of patience, kindness, and forgiveness, because I couldn't do it. I couldn't. I would have been over that goddamn banister, and I'd probably be in jail today. I probably would be. Especially Tadarrius ass. I don't like him. I don't like none of them, but Tadarrius and Demetrius, them two motherfuckers right there. Oh. So, but I'm going to end it here. We'll be back tomorrow morning. We'll be back all week as long as I can. See, I know you did. I watched y'all do it, and I don't know how she does it. I don't know how these families do it, because I'll tell you, I can't. I don't think I can. You sitting in that court with a smug on your face and acting like you're just innocent. That would fuck me up. It would. And me personally, I know me, that would make me see red, literally. But we'll be back here tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I'll keep y'all updated. Prayers to the family, prayers to his mama, his brothers, his sisters, his stepdad, his child. Prayers to the DA. I pray to God they come with the, with that fire, because today was very lackluster. His opening statements was boring as hell. He did not get the jury. He didn't pull at their heartstrings. I'm gonna tell you that now. He didn't. He was very lackluster today. And like I said, maybe it's the heat, because it is 90 degrees and the fucking courthouse doesn't have air conditioner right now. So I'm gonna attribute that to that. So I hope tomorrow he brings his A game and his team bring their A game. Because if that's how the trial is going to go, I hate to see the outcome. Prayers to the jury. I pray to God that they see through the bullshit and they see what happened was truly murder. At the end of the night, it was murder. Plain and simple. Murder. But I will catch y'all tomorrow. I appreciate every last one of y'all. I appreciate my mods hopping in and out. I thank y'all. And justice for Tyre. We gonna keep screaming his name until we get something. These motherfuckers need to go to jail. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. So y'all have a good night, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow. Peace, y'all.